Picture this. A 28-year-old woman sits in Carl Jung's Zurich office in 1912, apologizing for crying. She's been told her whole life she's too sensitive, too emotional, reads too much into things. Sound familiar? Jung saw something different. As he watched her describe how she could sense people's hidden pain, predict relationship problems months before they surfaced, and feel the emotional temperature of entire rooms, he realized he wasn't looking at someone who felt too much. He was looking at someone with extraordinary psychological capabilities that no one had bothered to understand. This case became the foundation of Jung's revolutionary discovery. What society calls oversensitivity might actually be advanced emotional intelligence operating without conscious direction. Over the next 4 decades, Jung documented how highly sensitive individuals weren't victims of their emotions. They were possessors of remarkable psychological gifts that, when properly integrated, transformed them into some of the most psychologically powerful people he ever encountered. But here's what shook Jung to his core. These individuals had been living as prisoners of their own superpowers. This is the story of Jung's real discoveries about the hidden strength in sensitivity and why the journey from unconscious absorption to conscious mastery might be the most important psychological transformation possible. Jung's breakthrough recognition. Here's what Jung discovered that changed everything. These patients weren't broken, they were operating with what he termed superior feeling function without an instruction manual. Jung realized that in his typology system, individuals with dominant feeling function don't just feel more, they process emotional data with the precision of a master detective. They notice micro-expressions others miss, sense authenticity instantly, and can predict relationship dynamics with startling accuracy. The problem wasn't their ability, it was that they'd been gaslit into believing their perceptions were wrong. Imagine having the emotional equivalent of superhuman hearing, but everyone around you insisting the sounds you hear don't exist. That's what Jung observed in patient after patient. These individuals had spent years doubting their most reliable inner compass because society kept telling them they were making things up or being dramatic. Jung documented something profound. When these patients finally learned to trust their emotional intelligence, they didn't become victims, they became masters of human psychology. But first they had to stop apologizing for seeing what others couldn't see. Right, I see what others don't. If you've ever been told you're reading too much into a situation that later proved you were exactly right. The suppressed shadow discovery. Jung's concept of shadow work revealed something shocking about highly sensitive people. Their shadow wasn't dark, it was brilliant. While most people suppressed their anger or aggression, sensitive individuals had suppressed their power. Their shadow contained their right to say no, their ability to set boundaries, their permission to protect their energy, and, most importantly, their trust in their own perceptions. Jung observed that these patients had been systematically trained to doubt their most sophisticated psychological capability. Every time they voiced what they sensed, the family secret, the relationship red flag, the person's hidden agenda, they were shut down, called too sensitive, or accused of causing drama. So they learned to suppress not their darkness, but their light. Jung documented case after case where patients had spent decades apologizing for their insights, minimizing their perceptions, and taking responsibility for other people's emotional reactions to their truth-telling. They had become what Jung called unconscious feeling types, incredibly gifted individuals operating with their most powerful function turned against themselves. The transformation Jung observed wasn't about these individuals becoming different people. It was about them reclaiming capabilities they'd possessed all along. Shadow integration for sensitive people meant retrieving their right to trust themselves completely. And when they finally did, Jung witnessed transformations that redefined his understanding of human potential. The 3-stage awakening. Jung identified a consistent pattern in how sensitive individuals reclaimed their power. He called it the journey from unconscious sensitivity to conscious mastery. And it happened in 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, the recognition earthquake. Something happens, usually a betrayal or moment of profound invalidation, that forces these individuals to confront a terrifying truth. They've been right all along. Every red flag they ignored, every gut feeling they dismissed, every time they were told they were imagining things, they weren't. This recognition hits like an earthquake, because it means they've been living as prisoners of their own accurate perceptions. Jung observed that this stage often brought intense grief. These patients weren't just mourning what happened to them, they were mourning all the times they betrayed themselves by not trusting their inner knowing. Stage 2, the boundary revolution. This is where Jung witnessed the most dramatic transformations. Patients suddenly developed what he called selective empathy, the ability to feel everything while choosing what deserved their emotional investment. They stopped absorbing other people's anxiety, stopped explaining away red flags, and started trusting their first impressions completely. Jung noted that people around them often panicked during this stage. Family members who relied on these individuals as emotional dumping grounds suddenly had to deal with their own feelings. Friends who took advantage of their endless patience found themselves facing clear, calm boundaries. Stage 3, the conscious integration. This is what Jung found most remarkable. These individuals didn't become cold or cynical, they became precisely empathic. They could read people with laser accuracy while maintaining complete emotional sovereignty. They became what Jung called conscious feeling types, people who felt deeply but chose wisely. The stunning results. What Jung documented next defied everything psychology thought it knew about sensitive people. These transformed individuals didn't just heal, they became extraordinarily successful in ways that seemed almost supernatural. Their people-reading abilities became surgical. Jung tested this extensively. These patients could identify someone's core psychological patterns, childhood wounds, and relationship tendencies within minutes of meeting them. Their accuracy rates were consistently above 90%. They weren't psychic, they were simply using their emotional intelligence consciously instead of drowning in it. Their relationships completely transformed. Here's what fascinated Jung. These individuals started attracting completely different types of people. Manipulative personalities began avoiding them instinctively, while emotionally healthy people felt drawn to their authenticity. Jung called this the authenticity magnet effect. Integrated, sensitive people naturally repel dysfunction and attract health. Comment, I became my own guardian if you've reached the point where you trust your perceptions more than other people's opinions of your perceptions. The individuation journey. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of psychological maturation and self-realization, was particularly relevant to sensitive individuals. He observed that their journey often involved several key realizations. Authentic self-expression, learning to express their true thoughts and feelings without apologizing for their depth or intensity. Jung noted that sensitive individuals often spent years hiding their authentic responses to avoid being labeled as too much. Energy management, developing sophisticated strategies for managing their energy, including learning to distinguish between their own emotions and those they were absorbing from others. Jung documented various techniques his patients developed for emotional regulation. Purpose alignment. Many discovered their life purpose involved using their sensitivity in service of others, not as emotional caretakers, but as guides, healers, teachers, or creative contributors who could help others access their own emotional depth. Jung observed that individuation for sensitive types often involved learning to see their sensitivity as a calling rather than a burden. Relationship dynamics. Jung paid particular attention to how integrated sensitive individuals navigated relationships. He noted several significant patterns. Attraction of authentic people. As these individuals became more authentic themselves, they naturally attracted people who valued emotional depth and genuine connection. Jung observed that psychological health tends to attract psychological health. Repelling of manipulative behavior. People with exploitative tendencies often felt uncomfortable around integrated, sensitive individuals, not because these individuals were hostile, but because their presence made superficiality and manipulation more difficult to maintain. Modeling effect. Jung documented how transformed sensitive individuals often inspired others to examine their own emotional authenticity. Their example gave others permission to be more genuine. Healthy boundaries. They learned to differentiate between empathy, understanding others' experiences, and emotional absorption, taking on others' emotional states. This allowed them to be deeply caring without losing themselves. Professional and creative applications. Jung observed that many of his integrated sensitive patients found exceptional success in their professional lives. Therapeutic abilities. Many became excellent counselors, therapists, or healers because they could quickly understand others' emotional landscapes while maintaining professional boundaries. Leadership skills. Their ability to read group dynamics and understand individual motivations made them effective leaders who could bring out the best in teams. Creative expression. Jung noted that many channeled their emotional depth into artistic expression, creating works that resonated deeply with others because they captured universal emotional truths. Innovation in human services. They often pioneered new approaches in education, healthcare, and social services because they could see human needs that others missed. Jung emphasized that these weren't supernatural abilities, but natural developments of existing human capacities that most people never fully develop. The ripple effect that changed psychology. Jung's discoveries about sensitive individuals created shockwaves that extended far beyond his practice. He began to realize he wasn't just treating individual patients. He was documenting a fundamental misunderstanding about human psychological diversity. The family system revolution. When one sensitive family member integrated their gifts, entire family dynamics shifted. Jung documented how these transformed individuals became like emotional truth serums for their families. They couldn't be manipulated, wouldn't enable dysfunction, and their very presence forced everyone to confront their own authenticity. Alcoholic parents had to face their addiction without their sensitive child as an emotional buffer. Narcissistic family members couldn't use them as supply sources. Dysfunctional siblings were forced to take responsibility for their own emotional regulation. Jung realized these individuals weren't just healing themselves, they were healing generational patterns by refusing to perpetuate them. The professional impact. Jung began consulting with colleagues about these cases, and what he discovered was unsettling. Many therapists, teachers, and healers were unconscious sensitive types who had been attracted to helping professions but hadn't learned to protect their gifts. They were burning out, absorbing their clients' trauma, and losing effectiveness. Jung developed what became the foundation for modern trauma-informed therapy, the understanding that healers must heal themselves first, and that sensitivity is a professional asset that requires conscious management, not suppression. The research that validates everything. Modern neuroscience has proven Jung's observations correct. Brain imaging shows that highly sensitive individuals have increased activity in areas associated with empathy, sensory processing, and emotional regulation. They're not overly emotional. They're neurologically wired for enhanced emotional processing. Modern implications. Jung's observations about sensitive individuals have proven remarkably prescient. Modern research on highly sensitive persons confirms many of his insights. Neurological differences. Contemporary neuroscience shows that highly sensitive individuals have different nervous system processing, validating Jung's observations about their enhanced perception. Evolutionary advantage. Researchers suggest that emotional sensitivity serves important evolutionary functions, including early threat detection and group cohesion maintenance. Professional value. In our increasingly complex social and professional environments, emotional intelligence has become recognized as a crucial capability for leadership, innovation, and collaboration. Jung's work suggests that rather than pathologizing sensitivity, we should understand it as a valuable human variation that, when properly supported and developed, contributes significantly to human flourishing. The revolutionary conclusion. Carl Jung's most profound insight wasn't that sensitive people need to become less sensitive. It was that they need to become consciously sensitive. And when they do, they don't just transform their own lives. They become agents of transformation for everyone around them. Here's what Jung realized in his final years. These individuals weren't just patients who healed. They represented evolution in action. In a world becoming increasingly complex and emotionally demanding, people with advanced emotional intelligence weren't luxuries, they were necessities. Jung wrote in his private notes, "The conscious feeling type may be humanity's answer to our growing emotional illiteracy. They are not victims of their sensitivity, they are their masters." Your sensitivity is your superpower, but only when you own it. If you've recognized yourself in this journey, Jung's research offers you a revolutionary reframe. You're not broken, overly emotional, or too much. You're operating with advanced psychological equipment in a world that doesn't understand how to use it. The question isn't whether you're too sensitive. The question is whether you're ready to stop apologizing for your gifts and start using them consciously. Jung's patients proved something extraordinary. When sensitive people learn to trust their perceptions completely, set boundaries fearlessly, and use their emotional intelligence strategically, they don't just heal, they become forces of healing in the world. Your sensitivity isn't your weakness. When properly integrated, it becomes your wisdom, your strength, and your gift to a world desperately in need of emotional truth. The only question remaining is, are you ready to stop being a prisoner of your own superpowers and start being their master? Comment, "I choose conscious sensitivity" if you're ready to transform unconscious absorption into conscious choice. Because the world doesn't need fewer sensitive people. It needs more conscious ones.